Hello everybody, this is John TVS here, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most controversial video games ever released. A little known game called Retro's Kart Racers, which came out for the VTech V-Smile back in 2015, and is the only adult-rated video game to be seen ever from a kids' learning system. Now, the story behind Retro himself is very intriguing, and so are all of his so-called friends and foes. So today, we're going to be taking a look into the wild and wacky world of Retro, all of his pals, and the history behind Retro's kart racers, and why it was deemed to be the most offensive game on the V-Smile system. This is John TVS's Stupid Video Essays. Our story goes back to the year 2015, the same year that Retro was introduced. Retro was a mascot for a bookstore called McKay's, a store famous in Tennessee for selling all kinds of used items. They frequently hosted an event called Retro Game Night, in which, in a lost image, it showed an angry red Sonic in front of a Contra background with the text Retro Game Night below. And this obviously inspired the creation of Retro, when a TV executive walked by McKay's and noticed the character. So he began making other characters, such as Trader, a blue creature that resembled Tails, that had 3 tails, and then you had Retra, a yellow Amy Rose that ate all kinds of food, and even other inedible items. And then there was also Retra The Blobthing, a green Knuckles that, funnily enough, is the most mature character, and doesn't make as much goofy jokes as the other guys. There was also Bubblegum and Corky, Bubblegum being the pink mother character for Retro and his siblings. That's right, all of the characters are actually siblings. And Bubblegum would frequently cook, clean, and do other stuff that a mother would do. Meanwhile, Corky was the dad character that actually acted a lot like Bubblegum. And these characters were all featured in a cartoon that aired on a network called Cartoonathon for a few years. The same network also aired such classics like the Centaur Man Show, Cartoons Gone Wild, the Garbage Pail Kids All Blown Up, the Era Vulgaire Show, and House of Zodiacs, as well as the Green Bullhead Show, and Little Cancer's House, which were its spin-offs. Now these shows were very successful, and the Massive Blob Family was its most successful endeavor. The show followed the adventures of a group of slime creatures created by Dr. Maniac, a clone of Dr. Robotnik who wore blue clothing, and he decided to make the slime creatures as evil warlord type characters, and all of them lived pretty relatively in normal, peaceful lives, except for Retro, the main character. The controversial part of the Massive Blob Family is that Retro is notoriously evil. In the show, he is very selfish, and he always asks for things like cookout cheese quesadillas, retro games, and other stuff, and he also frequently did tantrums as well as other things. Meanwhile, the other characters would always try to educate him about life lessons, but a lot of the times, Retro would not even learn anything, and he stayed angry for the entire series. This caused a wave of controversy when parent groups all over America protested the Massive Blob Family and how Retro is a very bad role model for children, due to the fact that he is the main character of the show and he acts bad. Thus, because of his swearing, constant tantrums, and wanting for material possessions, kids would most obviously imitate the character. Retro eventually got his own series, with most of the Massive Blob Family characters returning except for Bubblegum and Corky, who in the retro timeline never actually existed. New characters like Oblivion the Demon would also be added, an anti-hero character who would eventually grow to help Retro, as well as other characters from different series like Magic Mario, Adam Bomb from the Garbage Pail Kids, Yonder and Sylvia from Wonder Over Yonder, Shiva from Streets of Rage 2, and a sentient playing card that was an ace of spades, simply named Ace. These characters were all added to the series to make it more marketable and so that more people could recognize the characters. Eventually, the Massive Blob Family did make a comeback with an edgy reboot called The Massive Blob Family Adult Party Cartoon, which were edited versions of the older episodes. Sometimes new episodes would be made that were about more adult situations and scenarios, such as the Massive Blob Family's characters swearing and drinking amongst other adult actions. That show was so controversial that many parent groups protested again, saying that the Massive Blob Family should always be for children. However, the creators of the show did not listen and instead made a movie called The Massive Blob Family Movie. The Massive Blob Family movie was rated NC-17 and is about Bubblegum becoming a Hollywood star. But the movie was extremely controversial and nobody wanted to watch it. It was made primarily in response to Sausage Party, another adult animated movie that came out in 2016. So in the same year, 2016, the VTech V-Smile was flourishing in other parts of the world. The VTech V-Smile was a learning system made for children, and the most prominent feature about it was its controller, that had red, yellow, blue, and green buttons as well as a large orange button and a joystick. And overall, the console got extremely positive reviews from parents. However, the funny thing about it is that it was going to get an adult-rated video game. This freaked out many parent groups, the same ones who protested about how the Massive Blob Family should also and always be a children's show, except this time it was about the fact that the V-Smile was getting an adult-rated video game, which is very ironic as the market of the V-Smile was always supposed to be preschool children. However, this ended up in total turmoil when the game was released. On televisions everywhere, there were commercials showing Retro and his friends doing inappropriate things as well as drinking and swearing, saying, quote, "This game is the greatest game that you'll ever play," showing the characters racing in the cutscenes of the game. All of the characters from the Retro series returned, and Dr. Maniac was also made playable. In the game's story mode, Dr. Maniac holds a racing competition between all of the characters of the Retro series, and at the end of the game, you have to race against Dr. Maniac himself. The game's endings depended on what character you played as, and overall, the game was actually pretty positively reviewed, but because it was an adult-rated video game for the V-Smile, it never really sold well, with many people complaining about the swearing, drinking, and other taboo references. Whenever a character got hurt in the game, it would show blood splattered on the screen, but it could be edited in the options. Swearing was also, as mentioned before, a huge part of the game, especially when the player played as Retro. The funny thing about Retro is that the fact that Retro is the most controversial character in the game, and because of that, when you booted up the system, a software check screen would show instead of the V-Smile logo, in which Retro spin dashes onto the screen, looks towards the camera, and then runs towards it. He then says, "Hey kid, enter in the parental controls pin." A pin was on the back of every cartridge, and was also in the instruction manual. And as a result, many kids illegally played the game when they were not supposed to. If the player got the input code wrong, Retro would turn into a feathered dinosaur type creature and destroy the screen, with an error screen showing a sad V-Smile mascot. And it said, "Dear player, your console has just crashed, and as a result, you need to look inside of your V-Smile owner's manual and enter in the error code on our website or call the VTech support phone number." The console would then turn off, and as a result, it would actually fry the system under some conditions which caused some fires. This part of the game was extremely negatively panned due to the fact that no other V-Smile game could do this. It was just Retro's Kart Racers. Other characters in the game were also controversial, especially Shiva and Ace the Playing Card. Sylvia always swore whenever Yonder lost a race, and Shiva would always take off his clothes at the end of every single race that he won. However, it was usually always censored, and in most versions of the game he simply wears underwear. Ace the Playing Card, on the other hand, is the most controversial part of the game by far. The reason for this is because Ace the Playing Card is based on an ace of spades, which represents death in fortune telling, and as a result, if the player played as ace, strange things would happen to the other characters. They would die of a plague, and for the rest of the race, Ace would be racing all alone. Thus, there was no real challenge, and Ace was declared as the easiest character to play as. Not to mention, if the player beat the game as Ace, an error screen would show up and a similar thing would happen, once again causing the console to fry. This was extremely negatively received as well, and as a result, Retro's Kart Racers would go down as one of the most controversial racing games in the history of the world and one of the most controversial video games of all time. Today, Retro's Kart Racers is extremely negatively reviewed, as many people say that it was uncharacteristic for the V-Smile to have an adult-rated video game, as well as the fact that Retro was portrayed as an adult character more, and all of his friends and foes did very detestable things. The game was so controversial that when Retro was slated to come back in 2020 for a new television series called The Retro Show, many parent groups protested so much that Cartoonathon shut down, and all of its shows stopped being in production. An EAS sound played during this time, and a screen showing all of the Cartoonathon characters crying showing up on the screen, with text reading, "All of your favorite shows are gone now, and as a result, we will no longer be airing your favorite content. Please visit www.cartoonathon.com/obituary for more information." Whenever somebody got into the website, they could enter in what they loved most about Cartoonathon, and then that would be sent over to the Cartoonathon staff, who would show a message on the screen from the viewers. This, however, got very bad very quick, as many people trolled the Cartoonathon obituary services by entering in messages that talked about how bad Retro's Kart Racers was. And that is the story of Retro's Kart Racers. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below, and let us know if we should do any more of these stupid essay videos. Just wanted to give a big shout out to all you guys out there, and thank you so much for watching this joke video and staying tuned for our future projects. We really do appreciate the love and support as we transition to Joe Reuben cartoons and other more serious stuff, as yes, John TVS is a pile of junk, but then again, we want to put as much effort into the junk as possible before we turn old with our canes and stuff. Well, see you guys later, and this is John TVS wishing you have a happy and blessed day, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.